Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Jaiva Narottamam.
Devin Saraswati Vyasam.
Devin Saraswati Vyasam. Tato Jayamudire.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Asrita Veshadharine. So there's a verse 17 that has no purport. I'll just read the Sanskrit and the translation. And then we'll do 18 together. So, Tasyaivam Vartamanasya Purvesam Vrittiman Vaham Natida Dure Tilaschayam Yadasitan Nibodame. The translation to that verse is, now you may hear from me of what happened while Maharaj Pariksit was passing his days, hearing of the good occupations of his forefathers, and being absorbed in thoughts of them. Now text 18, I'll say, you say. Dharma,
Dharma,
Padaikena, Charan, Dharma, Padaikena, Charan,
Dharma, Padaikena, Charan.
And by the way, this is Canto 1, Chapter 16, Text 18. How Pariksit received the age of Kali. Vichayan, Upalabhya, Gam, Vichayam, Upalabhya, Gam, Vrichyati, Smashu, Vadanam, Vrichyati, Smashu, Vadanam, Vivatsam, Eva, Mataram, Vivatsam Eva Mataram, Dharma Padaikena Charan, Vichayam Upalabhyagam, Vrichyati Smashu Vidanam, Vivatsam Eva Mataram, Dharma Padaikena Charan, Vichayam Upalabhyagam, Vrichyati Smashu Vadanam, Vivatsam Eva Mataram, Dharma Padaikena Charan, Vichayam Upalabhyagam, Vrichyati Smashu Vadanam, Vivatsam Eva Mataram,
Vivatsameva mataram.
Someone else.
Dharma padaikena charan.
Dharma padaikena charan.
Vichayam upalabhyagam.
Vichayam upalabhyagam.
Prichati smashu vadanam. Vivatsam eva mataram.
All eyes are on you, Krishna Shaya.
Dhamma padikane charan.
Dharma padaikena charan.
Vichayam upalabhyagam.
Vichayam upalabhyagam.
You're doing great. You really are.
Parjeta smasu vadanam.
Vichati smashu vadanam.
Vivatsameva mataram.
Vivatsameva mataram.
Now you better have.
Huh?
You.
Dharma padaikena charan.
Dharma padikena charan.
Vichayam upalabhyagam.
Vichayam upalabhyagam.
Prichati smashu vadanam.
Vichati smasu vadanam.
Prichati smashu vadanam.
Prichati smashu vadanam.
Vivatsam eva mataram.
Vivatsam eva mataram.
That'd be a great scene, those. You better have double take. Huh?
I didn't hear what he said. I was all set to start.
It was perfect. Don't worry. It was great. It was great. And so, you want to do it, Krishna? Yeah. Well, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Dharma padaikena charan. Vichayam upalabhyagam. Prichati smashu vadanam. Vivatsameva mataram.
Okay, word for word. Dharma.
Dharma.
Personality of religious principles.
The personality of religious principles.
Vada.
Leg.
Ekena.
Ekena.
On one day.
On one day.
I don't know what I'm saying. On one only.
On one only.
Charan.
Charan.
Wandering.
Wandering.
Vichayam.
Vichayam.
Overtaken by shadow of grief.
Overtaken by shadow of grief.
Upalabhyam.
Upalabhyam.
Having met.
Being met.
Gum.
Gum.
The cow.
Cow.
Prichtati.
Prichati.
Asking. Sma.
Sma.
With. Ashruvadanam.
Ashruvadanam.
With tears on the face.
With tears on the face.
Vivatsam.
Vivatsam.
One who has lost her offspring.
One who has lost her offspring.
Eva.
Like.
Mataram.
Mataram.
The mother.
The mother.
So I'll say, and then you can repeat. The personality of religious principles.
The personality of religious principles.
Dharma. Was wandering about.
In
the form of a bull.
In the form of a bull.
And he met the personality of earth.
And he met the personality of earth.
In the form of a cow.
In the form of a cow.
Who appeared to grieve.
Like
a mother.
Who
had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes. And the beauty of her body was lost. Thus Dharma questioned the earth as follows. So the personality of religious principles, Dharma, who is also who? Maharaj example, he's very busy. He's Vidura, he's Dharma, he's his own owner. He's the father of Yudhisthira. He was the dog following Yudhisthira on his journey. Was wandering about in the form of a bull. See, I'll start. The personality of religious principles, Dharma, was wandering about in the form of a bull, and he met the personality of earth in the form of a cow, who appeared to grieve like a mother who had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes, and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus, Dharma questioned the earth as follows. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
The bull is the emblem of the moral principle, and the cow is the representative of the earth. When the bull and the cow are in a joyful mood, it is to be understood that the people of the world are also in a joyful mood. The reason is that the bull helps production of grains in the agricultural field, and the cow delivers milk, the miracle of aggregate food values. The human society, therefore, maintains these two important animals very carefully so that they can wander everywhere in cheerfulness. But at the present moment in this age of Kali, both the bull and the cow are now being slaughtered and eaten up as foodstuffs by a class of men who do not know the Brahminical culture. The bull and the cow can be protected for the good of all human society simply by spreading of Brahminical culture as the topmost perfection of all cultural affairs. By advancement of such culture, the morale of society is properly maintained, and so peace and prosperity are also attained without extraneous effort. When Brahminical culture deteriorates, the cow and bull are mistreated. The resulting actions are prominent by the following symptoms. Then we'll hear the symptoms as they go on. So once again, Namo my respectful basis to Prabhupada. Namo Vishudaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Divasesha Sanghavani Pasatari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri Vasari Gauravani Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter is describing how Parikshit first begins to, how he receives the age of Kali. And Parikshit is not the type of king that is interested in exploiting the resources of the planet for his own sense gratification, or exploiting the citizens, both human and non-human, for his own sense gratification. His only purpose is to make sure that everyone is being provided for and protected, and that happens only when he has good counsel from bona fide Brahmins. The Brahminical class is extremely important in the Vedic civilization. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hidaya Cha Jagat Hidaya Krishna Go Brahmanya Hidaya. So it's Go Brahmanya, cow and Brahman. Krishna this is very dear to Krishna. The first thing that Kali did when he realized, when he was given opportunity to live. I mean, later on you'll hear how Parikshit catches him beating the bull, Dharma, and when Parikshit's ready to just kill him right there on the spot. But then he says, no, I surrender. I'm taking shelter of you, and he's begging for forgiveness. He's repenting. And the duty of the king is that if someone's asking for shelter, repenting, he gives them the shelter. So he said, you can live where there is no... You can only live in places where, these sinful activities are occurring, and he lists them. And he said, wait a minute, there's no place like that on earth. That's not happening. So then he says, okay, well, you can live wherever there's hoarding of gold. And so Kali's plan was initially, and it's very similar to what Hiranyakasipu did, and King Venu before him, or maybe I'm not sure which is first, but their first plan is to undermine the Brahminical culture. So Kali influenced this young boy, Brahmin boy, Shringi, who was not really qualified. And he curses Parikshit Maharaj, and when Parikshit Maharaj is at a moment, he was very, very, very thirsty. When someone is extremely thirsty, we know that the Pandavas, that one story, that they come across a reservoir of water and they're all literally dying of thirst. And they don't care for the warnings of the Raksha, I think that's guarding it. And they just immediately drink and they all fall unconscious. But Yudhishthira controlled himself. And the Raksha says, the only way you can drink this water is you have to answer all these questions, and he lists all these questions. And the last question was, and he answers them all, but he's still dying of thirst, and he answers, what is the most amazing thing in the world? And we all know the answer is, the most amazing thing is that I see that my father has died, my grandfather has died, my mother has died, my grandmother has died, my friends have died, my brothers have died, everyone I know has died, I am dying, and yet still everyone is surprised that they're going to die. No one thinks that that's going to happen to them. It's a big surprise. That's the most amazing thing. So then he passed that test, was able to drink the water. In Parikshit's case, he was so thirsty, and the Brahmin whose hermitage that he came on was in deep meditation, so he takes a snake and puts it around his neck. And that when Shringi finds out, he curses him. And so to die in 7 days. And Parikshit thinks that's a great boon, because now I know exactly when I am going to die. And I remember when the doctor told me that you should be dead already, and you probably will die within the next day or two, or maybe who knows, because you should be dead. Maybe you'll live another year. And I'm thinking, in my mind, this is a Parikshit moment. This is perfect. But then I realized that I saw my wife, and I realized I had some responsibilities, so I said, okay, do the surgery, extended my life a little. And but I'm still going to die. And so this is what Kali's plan is. And this age of Kali is just an ocean of faults. People have practically no compassion, no tolerance, all the Brahminical qualities are lost. The Brahmins themselves become corrupt. When Shringi became corrupt, it gradually caused the Brahminical class to become more and more corrupt. And how is it that they became corrupt? They started using their position as Brahmins to profit, to make money. And they didn't. Previous to this, it wasn't just that you were Brahmin by birth. It was you were Brahmin because of your activities and your qualities. And gradually it became just Brahmin by birth, and they would charge funds for doing the various yajnas. But even if you see, like in the pastimes of Balaram that I was describing, he went to those hermitages that were being disturbed by the vivid gorilla and also by Balaram, because they would set them on fire and throw unclean things onto the Brahmins to disturb the yajnas. Hiranyakasipu, after his brother was killed, he told his friends, I'm going to kill Vishnu for what he's done. He was a loyal brother, and he made us all money, whatever. He was a good man, so he was a good demon. And whatever that means. So, it's like in the mafia, he's a good man. He's an hermit. So, he said, so I'm going to do this tapasya, these austerities, and I've got a plan, I'm going to kill Krishna. And so then he says, but now I want all of you to go to the earth planet because the Brahminical culture is flourishing, and I want you to set their hermitages on fire. I want you to disrupt all their tapasya and austerity and meditations and all their yajnas. Throwing unclean things onto them, disturbing the whole thing. King Vena did the same thing. He said that he stopped all the Brahminical activities, stopped the offerings to the different demigods and to Vishnu. He said, what is the point of that? The king is the supreme personality of Godhead, and all the demigods are his parts and parcels. These are Vena's words, not mine. And so, as soon as the Brahmins hear this, they lose it. They just by the sound vibration of their words, they say, kill him! Kill him! And he immediately dies. So when the Brahminical culture collapses, these things, then cow protection collapses as well. I mean, and in modern society, we're cut off from what is going on behind the curtain, so to speak. If you go down to see the cows and you see that a calf has been separated from the mother is crying tears, real tears. And we don't, we see, and you go in the grocery store, you see a piece of meat or chicken or whatever wrapped in saran wrap in what's it called? Styrofoam container, yeah. And it looks all neat. Or if you see an ad for a restaurant or something, you see a very good-looking waiter or waitress serving, and there's, a salad and potato, and then you see this, piece of flesh between two pieces of bread, and it's just another object for consumption. We don't see the living conditions of these animals. We don't see how they're force-fed before they're sold so that they can get more money. And we don't see the actual slaughter. There was one devotee I know, when he was in junior high or high school, they took him on a class trip to a slaughterhouse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I couldn't. That's exactly how I reacted. and he reacted by running out of it and throwing up. I can give you so many examples. I don't want to get too graphic about these things, but like, for instance, the Paul McCartney, the ex-Beatle, he's a vegetarian, a very strict vegetarian, and he said if all the slaughterhouses have glass walls, there'd be almost everybody would be a vegetarian. And I remember during the mayor's race, I was doing all kinds of research, and we wanted to know what were the conditions in the slaughterhouse, what was the turnover rate for people that worked in the slaughterhouse, and what other kinds of problems were there. I found out that most of the people there, they have a high rate of alcoholism. The turnover rate is actually about every 6 months. They need, a certain percentage of them, at least 50%, they have to turn. Very few people can do it as a life occupation. I mean, there are people that are butchers, but a butcher's a little bit different. He's got the carcass and then he's just cutting. The actual killing, and that's a different thing altogether. And so we don't see this. And fortunately for us, we're in a situation where the cows are being protected, and they get to wander around and not feel any of that stress or anxiety about being killed. One time, Colleen and myself and my son, about 22 years ago, 1996, somewhere between Orlando and Tampa, we were looking for a place there was like a market there, but nothing was happening that day, but there was a stockyard, a small one, right next to it. And they had all these cows in these pens, and you could walk up, and there was like a walkway, so you could look down on the cows that were going to be sold. And we started singing, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Rama Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. And they were just like crying, really just plaintively crying out. You could see tears in their eyes. Where I lived on a farm before I came here. I was renting a farmhouse, and it was 165 acres. There was a caretaker who took care of it, and it was basically for cattle. And I remember one year on January 1st, we were taking a walk, and we saw a calf being born. We thought, oh, this is an auspicious sign, even though we know that these cows are going to be sold. And about 3 months later, I can't remember exactly how many months, but all up and down this one area, it was what you call a hollow. You go back and it ends. And there were little small cattle farms, ranches. So all of a sudden you see this pickup truck with a big trailer, and he's coming by, picking up all the calves on all the farms, and he's taking them to the local stockyard for selling. And you see the mothers crying. It's a ghastly business. And the suffering that these animals are feeling, the fear that they're feeling, the pain, and all of that, those hormones that they've been fed, plus the adrenaline, they eat that. People eat that, and it's very, very poisonous. It creates diseases, cancers, and it creates quarreling, fighting, violence, crime, and wars. This is our society. You are what you eat. So Prabhupada came to establish a Brahminical culture, and so this is an epidemic. This society, there's a disease, and when there's a disease, there's a vaccine. And in this age, the vaccine is Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. Kilo nasteva, 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 gati ranyato. So we have been given the charge to spread the vaccine for the disease of Kali, to reverse it, because this is the norm. I remember specifically in the 70s, it was common for everybody to smoke. If you're on a plane, they just smoked. And it was a very interesting experience. We were flying to India, and 1975, we had most of that plane, but there was one section where people were non-devotees, and they were smoking. And Rita Ananda gets up, and we were all kind of like taken aback, and he gets up and gets control of the microphone. And he says, everyone, all of you that are smoking, we are all non-smokers here. We're the majority. This is a democracy. And it's very disturbing for us. And we were asking you for please resist from smoking, or at least stay in your section. And this was sort of the beginning of people actually speaking out about no smoking in public. I really feel that, and at the time all the devotees are going, oh my God, it's like really coming off like a fanatic. But it was a very bold thing to do. And now you see, actually, there is no smoking on planes. There is, no smoking in restaurants. There isn't even any smoking in bars. And so, but what is the norm, in our civilization is the most sinful activities. Where there's gambling. I mean, when I came back here from living here back before Katrina, from before, they were there then. But when I came back here after, when my son was in school here, and I saw gambling casinos, because Mississippi, that would have been the last place that you would think they would have gambling. I remember when I first came to the South, they wanted to do lotteries, like up north in Georgia. And there was no way that they were going to have lotteries. No way. It's become the norm. Gradually, religious principles are deteriorating. because there is no strong Brahminical class. There actually are in India, there are so-called Vedic scholars that say that the Varnashram system was created by Brahmins to exploit the people. And therefore they advocate a classless society, that everyone is equal. Men, women, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, everyone's equal. Yeah, we are equal, but we're also different. People have natural proclivities. We have natural tendencies. Some people are very much interested in making money, and they're very good at it. But some people are very good at, want to be involved in protecting, like police or being in an army. Some people are very scholarly. So these things are being denied, and we're being led by leaders that are completely corrupt, have no respect for the Brahminical culture and for the cow. The cow is necessary in human society because the milk from the cow is liquid religiosity. And that food, that milk, helps to develop the finer brain tissues so that people can understand the spiritual topics. They can understand transcendental knowledge. They can understand Krishna consciousness. So our mission under Srila Prabhupada is to vaccinate people with the Hare Krishna mantra, to give them that opportunity. And to go, to explain even in a greater sense what is the importance of cow protection. What is the profession? When God, Krishna himself, came on the planet, what was his profession? As a child, what was he doing? Herding cows. And there's a nice little pastime. After I've given you all the gas and gory, I believe I could go on. There's lots of stories. But so up to the age of 5, Krishna and Balaram just to take care of the calves. And so Mother Jasoda was very happy about that because the calves don't go so far away, and she could go up on top of their residence and she could see Krishna all day where he was. And that part of the village where the calves were pasturing, the ground was very soft. And so it didn't hurt his feet. He was barefoot. So then after the age of 5, he was now ready to be a cow herdsman. And his father gave him like a stick, a herding. Although Balaram and Krishna never used the stick. They just carried it. And it was jewel encrusted. And so now the cows, they go further into the forest, and Mother Jasoda won't be able to see the cows. She won't be able to see Krishna. And also in the forest, there's stones, little pebbles, and there's thorns. And she was so concerned that his soft, tender feet would be hurt. So she starts making sandals for him. And Krishna says, "What are you doing, Mother?" "Well, I'm making it, it's very where it's going to be. It's going to be, your feet are so tender and soft. I don't want you to get pricked by the thorns or the stones. So I'm making sandals for you." And he said, "Well, are you making sandals for the cows?" She says, "Well, they have hooves. The hooves are hard. They don't need sandals." She said, "Well, I'm not going then. I'm not going to her unless you make sandals for all the cows. I'm not wearing the sandals. And if I have to wear sandals, then I'm not going." And the problem with that is that Nanda Maharaj had 900,000 cows. So do the math. 900,000 times 4 is 3,600,000 sandals that she would have had to make. When the cows heard about this, they understood. And so then they purposely, sort of pounded the earth in the forest and made it very soft so it wouldn't hurt Krishna's tender feet. And so on the first day, the way the cow herdsmen would do the herding, they would stand behind the cows. So Krishna and Balaram, the cowherd boys, are standing behind the cows, but the cows won't move. And Krishna is like, well, what's the problem here? What's going on? And then the other cowards and the other boys say, well, because they're so attached to you, they want to see you all the time. They want to have your darshan. And they're concerned if you're behind them, you may disappear, and they won't know where you are. Something could happen to you, or you'd leave them. So then Krishna goes in the front. That's why you see in all the paintings, Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys are in the front, so that the cows can have his darshan and not be denied that vision. And they made sure, by pounding with their hooves, they made sure that soil became set. Even now, you go to, of course I haven't been there in a long time, but the ground in Vrindavan is very soft. It's very sandy, almost. And that's due to the fact that the cows were concerned about Krishna's lotus feet. So, that shows you how much the cows mean to Krishna. And when human society protects the cows and takes care of them properly, the cows will be joyful and jolly, and humans will be joyful and jolly. It is an easy formula, the peace formula. We can solve all the problems with crime and violence and wars and diseases by simply protecting the cows. But we need first-class Brahmins who can then instruct the leaders on how to properly organize society. That's the purpose of Varnashram. But, as I said, the medicine, the vaccination is Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. Kalo naseva, nasteva nasteva, gatte ram. Chant the holy name, chant the holy name, chant the holy name. There is no other way. There is no other way, no other way. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yes.
I have a quick comment and a question.
Okay.
Recently I saw that now you can actually buy the shoes for dogs.
I see, you know, that's true. When I used to, I had dogs, and that's another point, is the way we take care of dogs and cats in this society. I'm not talking about our society, but in the Western society, it's ridiculous. They treat them like they're... And I remember at one point, back in the 70s, there was some kind of a beef shortage. It may have been a manipulated, false thing. And so they were talking about using horse meat or kangaroo meat, which they probably do anyway. So I think McDonald's got caught for this. But so my first wife was talking to her mother, who had dogs, and having this conversation about not having cow meat and talking about eating horses. And she said, well, you know, what about dog meat? I mean, why not just kill... One of the dogs' name was Peppy. What if you just ate Peppy? And she goes, shh, quiet, he'll hear you. You know, but I understand now. Back then, it's amazing, you know, my first wife finds it very amusing now how attached I was to my dogs, because back then I was really like a typical, they're moochie, you know. But, you know, I've learned to... I think, I understand that dogs have, if you're living on a farm, dogs have a very important role to play. And they aren't, that soul in a dog is the same soul that's in a cow, the same soul that's in me, the same soul that's in the trees. So, but, you know, to go to the extent of buying shoes, and I used to see it, when we would walk the dogs and we lived in Picayune, there was a man who had shoes for the dogs, and sometimes the dogs do get, thorns in their paws, and it's hard to get it out. This has been going on for some time. Not only they dress them up, they have birthday parties for them. They have their own graveyards.
They have goggles, everything. You know.
They have, it's bizarre. How much money is spent on dog food a year is mind-boggling.
It's a huge industry.
Oh, you can't imagine. So what was the question?
And the question was, Prabhu, if I heard you correctly, that you said you ran for a mayor run or
No,
something?
I didn't. No, I was involved in that.
Was it in New York City?
No, it was in Atlanta in 1973, I guess. Bhagavatam, who ran for mayor, and out of that, Prabhupada started the In God We Trust party. And he was really enthusiastic because we got so much coverage. You know, free press, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at the end of the mayor's race, Walter Cronkite, who at that time he was the most trusted man in America, and he was describing the Atlanta mayoral race because it was a different type of race. You could qualify simply either by getting signatures or paying $1,000. It was a non-partisan race. Although everybody knew who the four principal people, there was 11 people in the race. And two of them were Republicans, 2 of them were Democrats, although they couldn't announce themselves in that way.
Is that an unusual, rare, that they did it that way? Or?
Yes, it's very unusual.
I mean, for Atlanta too, it was...
Yes, for the whole country. And it's, I don't know if they're still doing it. It was an experiment. And out of the 11, there was, a garbage man, and he was really, and actually, Bhagavatam one time he said, that's a very interesting point, Mr. So-and-so said, and, I can see his point there about the picking up of the trash, and I really think that he's so dedicated to it, and so he knows so much about it. I really think he should be running for in charge of the sanitation department, the trash. I think he should be in charge of all the garbage men, not the mayor. And everybody just cracked up. He should be in charge of that. But Walter Cronkite said that there was something unusual in Atlanta, and there was all these different fringe candidates, the legalization of victimless crimes like marijuana or prostitution or whatever, and gambling. And so he said that there were 4 main candidates, and then there was, of the remaining fringe, there was a Hare Krishna candidate. And his candidacy used this opportunity to bring the discussion into what are the qualifications of good leadership, rather than just the normal catchy little campaign slogans. And they had respect for it. So there's a lot of really amazing stories, and the articles kept coming, and Prabhupada was really, and it became very serious. Prabhupada then organized it, and other devotees were going to start running. But then there were some legal issues about the involvement of the devotees and the use of money from ISKCON, so it would have to be done separately. And so he said, for now we should stop doing it, and then later he said that he was enthusiastic. If you want to keep doing this, you could. But other things, it's never happened again. I think in other countries where, as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when I was in Tennessee, Bhakti Raghava Swami interviewed me because he was about that period of time, because he was on his way to a conference in Italy, and in certain countries like Italy and in India, and some countries, I don't know if it was Croatia, but some of those countries in that area, they were forming political parties, devotees. And I don't know whatever happened to that. But anything else? Yes?
Even back in the 60s and 70s, Prabhupada said, no one has a family, so they have a dog friend.
That's right, yeah.
And he said they, even though the dog is ugly and diseased, they care for this dog and kill the child in the womb.
Yeah, that's one little thing.
I was watching a Christian on YouTube last week, and he was pointing out some scriptures from the Bible. I can't remember what the number of it was right now, but Christ was telling the disciples to go out and preach to all creation.
Oh.
And he pointed out that why would Christ have bothered telling the disciples to preach to all creation unless everything has so?
Wow. That's interesting. There are lots of little things. I had this one quote from, it was either, I can't remember, Paul or Peter, and it was and I really need to find it again, because there's lots of little gems throughout the Bible that really kind of, put support vegetarianism, support, Sankirtan, support, the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. And many, many Christians. I just heard a story in the Prabhupada Memories, where this one nun came and she bowed down to Prabhupada, and she was there for about 10 minutes, and she would say, this is what Jesus Christ said, and Prabhupada said, and yes, and this is what Krishna says, and they just saw the similarities, and she was extremely respectful to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was very respectful to her.
My Guru Maharaj has a disciple that's a nun that
Really?
she follows the principles and chants 16 rounds and works in a Catholic orphanage and chants her rosary and just wed the two somehow.
I know there's one of Prabhupada's disciples that had been a nun. She became a devotee. I can't remember her name exactly. But there was also, when Prabhupada was in Atlanta, there were three, about 50 miles outside Atlanta, there's a place called Conyers. And there's a Trappist monastery there. Did you ever go there?
I've been there several
Yeah,
times.
and if you go there around 4 o'clock in the morning, the cathedral is real high arched, and they start singing the Gregorian chants. It's really something to experience. And 3 of the young men, they were doing what they call japa yoga, and they were chanting. Because there is a sect of Christianity somewhere like in Egypt or Syria, I don't know about now in Syria, but there's like a monastery where they just chant. They just say, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus. They meditate on the name of Jesus. So these 3 men were doing that, and I had been cultivating one of them. So, and I thought, well, because just prior to that, a few months prior, there had been an incident where Prabhupada was at a Franciscan monastery, and it went very well, and the Franciscans, Prabhupada said, Christos, something, there's like three stages to Krishna.
Christ, Christos, Krishna?
Yeah, something like that. Christos, Christ, Krishna. And, because it means the anointed one. And so they all started chanting together. And so, and when they told Prabhupada St. Francis' philosophy, that he saw, the sun and the moon as brother and sister, the tree and the bird as brother and sister, Prabhupada said, his eyes, and you see it in the video, his eyes get real big. He goes, oh, that is real God consciousness. That is, and all the monks were like so touched by this. So they all had a kirtan together. So I introduced these 3 people in the room darshan, when he was in Atlanta, and tell Prabhupada that they're chanting. And then Prabhupada, he never did the predictable thing. I thought he was going to say, encourage them or something. Instead he said, where in the Bible it says Jesus is God? And it got into it. It went well though. It went very nicely. One of them was a little feisty, but the other 2 took it very well. And they basically agreed, yes, no, Jesus is the Son of God. And it was a very interesting conversation. It's there in the conversation books. I'm not sure if it's in the... I can't remember if I've heard parts of it, I think, not the entire thing, on the tape. So they edit things. Like, I have at home the books of the Prabhupada's lectures. And I've been noticing lately that they cut off about 1.5 or 2 pages almost on every lecture. They end it, and they do it really well. You don't know it's ended. Then they go, thank you very much. But they leave off. Sometimes I can understand why. There's one where they got into a discussion about this devotee in Hawaii who was doing some nonsense. So they cut that out of the tape.
They.
Whoever was in charge of the tape ministry. So but the books have everything in it.
Oh.
Even I remember originally, because I was real concerned when, because the lecture in the opening of Krishna Balaram, Prabhupada, this is the official opening, and the governor is there, and all the big leaders of, is that UP? Where Vrindavan is? Yeah. So, and then all the devotees, and Prabhupada was glorifying all the assets of ISKCON, like the Radha party, and how many books they're distributing, the library party, and how many universities have taken standing orders of books, and being appreciated by all the scholars, and we have so many centers around the world. And then he said, and I've just come from Atlanta. And he said, they have 3 buildings there, one for the men, one for the women, and in the center they have Gorni Thai. And he says, and you should all go and see how they're dancing for Gorni Thai. You would be amazed. And because I was on one end of the courtyard, and Balaram was on the other. We met in the middle, like, But then when I heard the tape, I didn't hear it.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, but then now I've heard another tape where they do include it. It was, but I think, who knows, politics, because Prabhupada was glorifying it. So that was real nice. So, yes?
A little comment about the cows and Krishna. It's amusing to me to know that different animals like different type of music. Certainly
Yes.
cows
Yes.
love the flute. Krishna
Yeah.
plays his flute and they are so happy. And it's believed to say that when Krishna was tending the cows, he made sure they ate good and they are rested. To know how a cow is rested is when they will sit down in the shade and they will start moving their mouth. I don't know what they're doing, chewing the
cud.
Have you all seen that before?
Sure, yeah.
So that means they are happy and been tended and ate well, and that's a sign.
Also, Prabhupada said, hunters will use flutes to attract deer.
Yeah.
That they'll be stung.
Amusement for me is the snake. It likes that charming music that they play.
Yeah.
Come out.
Yeah.
Where their ears, I don't know. But
It's like a Shania or something.
yeah, they just respond to that so good. But I wonder what the dogs like, They haven't figured it out yet. Rock and roll music.
Oh, well, my dogs like kirtan. They like the sound of kirtan. They liked when I chanted japa, or they would sit while I was reading Bhagavatam. Yeah, they like that.
They like something they can howl to.
But plants respond very well to classical music. They grow very well. It's depending on the, Baroque, Vivaldi, and I can't remember the other Baroque composers, but Baroque is like the most God-conscious, pious of the classical music era. There's lots of studies like that. And then you play heavy metal next to a plant and it dies. They'll go towards certain music. So. Yes.
I think it's something called the Mozart effect, where they're playing Mozart to little babies, and it helps stimulate their brain growth.
When I don't know what happened, but forever we had Prabhupada chanting japa out of the pavilion, and somehow or other, we don't hear it anymore.
It's so low that you couldn't hear it earlier.
No, I could hear it. In the morning, it's very peaceful and quiet. You hear it.
That's the trick to Prabhu who did that. Someone went and cleaned, they really cleaned that little room out. I'm still trying to find out who did it. But they could have just thrown that little thing or what.
It was just one of the japa boxes?
Yes, that was Chitriketu who left it.
Oh, because that was really nice. There's no reason why, even in our garden, we couldn't have some nice bhajans being played, or having Prabhupada chanting Hare Krishna.
I'm currently trying to fix that with that new person who is here, Colton. He's going to help me to fix music all over the world.
Colton?
Colton, that new couple.
Yeah.
He's expert at that.
Oh, the South Carolina? from?
No, Colton is the one from...
Oh, okay, the coast.
No, there are two couples. There's
Oh.
a new one, a couple, a new couple.
Yeah, I just talked to them, yeah.
Yeah, he's very expert at this. First, I'm going to fix the pavilion, the store. We're working
Are
on
they
it.
going to like stay where they are and just visit, or are they going to...
They're in Vancouver. They visited my shop. I told them to
Yeah.
come in and they love it. They'll come in the weekends, But he's very expert at
But one thing is I noticed that yesterday, I think it was yesterday, or the day before they were here, and the devotees gave them 3 books. One of them was, I can give the little songbook, which is great, you get the prayers. Another one was ideal worship or idol worship. I can understand that. And then there was one that was given to him by Deva Amrita Swami about the Vedic civilization. Not one problem book. So I had a bunch of Krishna books, and I had one of the old, the 3 small ones together, the trilogy.
You told me that they had that. You gave it to me.
Yeah, I gave it to him, and because that's the one, you talk to most devotees, that's the one that makes them a devotee. And I was noticing, I was going to notice this, maybe I'll just wait, I won't say anything.
This is so overwhelming, whenever we bring some new person, everyone just goes to that.
Right, but they should read.
I just don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, I understand the idea of the Vedic civilization, and I understand about the deity worship and the songbook, but you should have a problem. And I think the Krishna book is the best, because it's got philosophy, but it's got these beautiful stories. And I just heard one Mataji talk the other day. She probably joined around the same time I did. She said first it was just the Bhagavad Gita and its philosophy, Then when the Krishna book came out, it's like, that's the same way I was.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that Krishna book made more devotees than anything, I think.
Is there a big difference between the old one and the new one? I
No.
I've never seen compare them. Like in editing or something?
No,
Oh,
no.
then why do you mean that that's the one that made the...
I don't even think there's really that much of a difference in the editing of the Bhagavad Gita. I haven't seen that much of a difference, but maybe I haven't really seen the new one. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for yours. Rose to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.